right. So I think we are the last straw before the lunch happens. So let's make it quick. Uh, but thank you all for joining us, and thank you the panelists. Of course, it's been a little bit of a ruckus we had here in terms of panelists, but I think thanks for all of you joining us. Uh, so I think I think we've had some wonderful presentations earlier, defining how lighting designers work and the science and the technology and sensitivity to people, to nature. A lot has been discussed. See, light is the lightest building material, to begin with. It's something very interesting. Interestingly, and on the panel we have, I think there are two architects, including myself. I'm a lighting designer as well. So as architects, we sort of have that tendency that we create spaces, right? So there's we generally talk about it often. But light is the one which fills those spaces, interestingly. So, there is a very interesting, component which we miss about lighting. It's something which we experience every time we enter any space, right? So today's panel discussion is all about collaboration, right? We will be talking about quite a few interesting things. So I'll, probably start. So we have a interesting mix here. So we have a top MEP consultant. We have a manufacturer who's based in Mumbai. Devansh, of course, is an architect and doing some very interesting projects. And I represent the lighting design community. So very clearly, what I really want to know, and from each one of you, and we'll keep it interactive, we'll keep it very short, in fact. How do you, so you've seen a few presentations earlier, you've been, you've collaborated with lighting designers earlier. How do you see this profession growing? And it's a very important and a pertinent question that, you've been serving or taking services of, using lighting in your projects. But when it comes to lighting design as a component, right? How do you perceive, this as a niche profession? And how has been your journey with lighting designers? And thirdly, how do you foresee the profession going onwards? So, Sandeep ji, you are our senior. Please, I want you to talk about it first.
Thank you, Ashish. It's always of interest to talk to you online, offline, on various forums. I think as engineers, it's exciting for us because it's art and engineering mix. We have our own challenges. The controllers, the location of the controllers, the power supplies, the quality of power supply to these controllers to make the efficiencies of controllers long last, the heat attributed from the light in our air conditioned spaces. All of this, along with it, most importantly, is the fire safety part of it. The kind of lux levels you have to achieve, and I heard my young colleagues speak about, how lighting and safety works together, and the lighting has to be discrete. That means you should not be able to see the source of light. It should be mysterious, but simultaneously it also has to be doing its functions of the time when the light is required the most in case of distress. And I go to a lot of good places. God has been kind. We travel reasonably well. And I see very good lighting systems, but a lot of times my lighting friends tell me that despite that they were not willing to, but because of the requirements of the safety aspects, those angles have to be also met. So we find it challenging, exciting, and I think the win is when all of us are meeting our complete goals and objectives from efficiency, safety, aesthetics, most importantly, longevity. Today we get lights, which looks very nice. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 5, they are not working. So I think longevity of life to reduce our carbon
I'll
footprint.
get Vijay to answer that. So
I think that's what it would be.
no, let's have it interactive. So I don't want to stop anywhere. I think it's interesting. We need to really. So I think your concerns are well taken. While we may go designer, we may go experiential, we can talk all the jazz of concepts, experiences and whatnot. The engineering of it, the longevity of it, and in fact, we still have a silent partner in the overall collaboration is our client. We talked about human centricity and people using. In fact, animals are also our client sometime. We have to talk about animal-centric lighting as well at times. Having or plants for that matter. You're growing lighting. We are using lighting to grow plants faster. For example, all the great arithmetic which is happening there. So having spoken about that, I think it's important to also have good functional, lighting which has a longevity, which performs well, and the client feels that, if I have pumped in X amount of money to a project, I'm getting the returns and I'm able to really enjoy the derivative. So, which are your thoughts on that? You can keep it
You
close.
know, hi everyone. I mean, I've been in lighting now since '97 after I completed my MBA. So I've seen a phenomenal amount of change of how lighting has changed and grown. In fact, I went to my office even before '97. I think it was '94. Uh, that gives away my age, but uh,
I'm certainly feeling very young.
so point being is the lighting has come a long way, and I think one of the things is that as people are having a better understanding of what light can do, they're appreciating lighting and lighting designers and everything post that. So I think the most important thing today is people do not understand the science and the art and the efficiency or the longevity or the total cost of the project. And I think that as the understanding of that grows, the appreciation and the money allocated to that, because ultimately everything is commercial, right? So we have a stand here and a lot of architects come and I tell them, yaar, thoda Italian marble pe kam kharcha karo. Thoda Italian marble
No,
pe kam
which is what I
kharcha
said.
karo.
You may, for example, the space that is created with all the rugs and the wood and the
Yeah,
marble
yeah,
and the
yeah.
paint, is filled with light. So
That's the only jazzy thing the clients can afford. So
Yeah.
no, believe you me, actually, Devansh, then, just picking from there, see, actually, so the rest of it is actually fixed, you would not change the wall material or the flooring so often. But lighting is the most impermanent and most interesting component which fills that space, and one can actually, create multiple experiences in the same space. So, but while I'll pick where I left Sandeep ji, how often have you, in your experience with lighting and lighting design and designers, how has it been, and what do
you
you
know,
foresee?
too many cars outside.
I know.
So I'll start with a statement where not as a designer, but I have few friends who told me they are buying a house, and the first thing which I spoke about, the first thing they said that furniture come chalega, but we want the best lighting effect in my house. So any layman who's buying a new house, after getting the house, they feel that the lighting should be so good that we feel like we are in our home, we are coming out from a chaotic world, sitting in our home, relaxing. So the importance of lighting in anyone's thought has become so important and crucial. So everyone's interpretation and perseverance is very different. As a designers, we make sure that uh, what is more important in an house or in an architectural design. For example, if I'm designing an exterior facade, I want to make sure what I am accentuating, what I want to show as a feature, and can stand out as an element or as a brand for the developer or the owner. So even like we must have seen people lit up the balconies, people lit up the crowns in the facade in the highest towers. If you see in the in Lower Parel, so these makes us aware that buildings are not dead. You want it to keep it alive at night. You want to interact with it. You feel a sense of belonging when the building lights up. You feel, okay, that's my landmark. So lighting gives a prominence to the surrounding, and it gives a belonging to where you stay, where you are located. So these are some aspects as a designers we face every day.
Excellent. I think what you really came up with a very important keyword. I think first thing which I really felt when you talked about was wellness. So you feel comfortable. It's a very important thing. I think our previous speakers talked about wellness. We do interestingly. So even after the pandemic, a lot of our time we've been spending indoors. We've been forced indoors or whatever you may say. So the importance of artificial lighting specifically, conforming to wellness per se, it has become much more important. Um, uh, and the second thing, which of course you mentioned, was light as a special element or something of a matter of pride for that matter. And it's a landmark. If I just want to extend on that fact, you see, you talk about one or two homes. Talk about cities. There are some cities which are gleaming, or rather are on the map because of lighting, for that matter. You do travel to see these cities or locations, and there is an immense amount of tourism, which this little element of lighting is able to generate. You see, because as architects, I really appreciate and the huge community which is creating the architecture for the daytime. Lighting creates a totally new identity on the same buildings, which recreating skylines for the whole city. And a tourism industry is building on that. Tourism is of course not about only buildings, but if you've heard of festivals, lighting festivals, like there's one called there was in Sydney, Vivid Sydney. Vivid Sydney is such a festival they've created, and which is actually revolved around lighting per se. And you do not find hotels and tickets for the time. They've created such a wonderful affair. So having said so, it's one, of course, it's a matter of pride, and second, it is also generating identities, creating livelihoods, I must say, in a very indirect way, in a very discreet way, for that matter. It's so I think the fact remains that lighting as a component, lighting as a designer element, is beyond just lamps and bulbs and technologies. I think the importance that it carries quite a variety, from while I talked about tourism to wellness, to productivity, to a lot of other interesting things. Um, Sandeep ji, back to you for a minute here again. So in our projects, there are ample amount of stakeholders. So I think we have quite a few sitting here. So you have an MEP consultant, a top one, and manufacturer and architect. We would have really loved to have an interior designer. We couldn't find one today, but that is also an important. But I think important thing again, like I mentioned, which is missing here, is the client, for example. So. So what do you think? I mean, from what should the lighting designers do, which is, and it's a guidance for the rest of us here, or lighting design industry do, which is, something which is favoring our clients, and how do you foresee this happening onwards? So yeah, Vijay. Yeah.
One word: flexibility, scalability, in a way.
Excellent, excellent.
You see, today we are always looking at things to shape, the shape of things to come. Intelligence is setting in. Who thought about lighting control, what we are doing today, 10 years ago? So the flexibility in design opportunities gives the excitement to keep moving ahead. I want to now, since this is a panel discussion and you always maintain we need to be interactive, now really take about 30 seconds to ask from colleagues over here, how many of us are actually controlling light on off, one, or light intensity controls from our mobile phones, from our cell phones? How many of us are doing that? So who is controlling light on off, just the on off part of it? And nahi sir, aap to allowed hi nahi. No. If you will do it at house, you will do it at office. If you will do it at office, you will do it at your washroom. If you do it in your washroom, you will do it in your library. You can't say, I'll just do it at air. You would extend your boundaries. You can't, today, you can't just say, I'll have a nice, all of us have 5 cell phone charger wires. One in the bedroom, one in the living room, one in the drawing room, one at the office, one in the car. The cell phone roams around, the charging cables remains where they are. Affordability is becoming better in India, for sure. And we are able to afford technologies. It's just that we should know the technology. So the question remains, Ashish ji, I'm sorry, they are my clients.
Yeah.
They are my clients. Everybody sitting in this room is a client, somewhere or the other.
Absolutely.
I'm also a client to
Absolutely.
you. You could be a client to me tomorrow.
Right.
So that's how the circular economy works. So let me ask, how many of us are using cell phone devices for switch on off the lights? Can we raise hands?
Some of them, the younger crowd, I can see.
No, let's try. Yep, no, तो करेंगे ही करेंगे.
Or Alexa.
नहीं, that's an Alexa or probably automation in terms of voice command, in terms of cell phones, on, off. How many? Because the next level is intensity control. So yeah, so if you're not on, off, then it's like your graduation and your post-graduation, right? So on, off is the start of it.
You are at PhD, I guess.
नहीं sir, आप
Sir
मुझे
is
छोड़ो.
marketing in a very good way.
No, I'm a good marketing guy. You know, my wife works with me. She's technical. I'm a marketing guy. I don't know technical. But I'm telling you guys, the landscape is large for all of us. It is so exciting. Buy one light fixture and the cost is minuscule. The kind of money you take to pop up your car for 1 week of diesel is the less of the cost what you get for a beautiful light fixture, which will last you for 2 years, 3 years probably today. So I think automation is the key, Ashish ji. Scalability comes by default in automation.
Absolutely.
I can do wonderful things, you know. Obviously, my son doesn't like it. He said, you keep changing the colors of the light every time you come into the room. But nevertheless, I think
You're a jazzy dad, I must say. So
he doesn't. So I'm sure, guys, I think flexibility, compatibility, scalability are a couple of things which will keep exciting the lives. Because every time you try to look at the light in a different mood settings, I'm sure it elevates you from the circadian rhythm which we talk about.
yeah.
So,
So
that's my
I
take on
reckon.
it.
I mean, sorry, just take a moment. Here, I'll go to you. So I understand. I mean, you know, the way you talked about. So I think technologically, the advancement is automatically happening while you're asking for it. It's where we have to convince the clients is where the challenge begins. You know, it's not about the technology is not available. It's pretty much there and it's getting affordable by the day.
We need to put our hands together.
Absolutely. So we need to collaborate and give that opportunity, option, visibility to the clients because you know as technology moves ahead, our lifestyles also are also changing. You know, maybe our younger crowd in the home needs to push that through, and you know that they are the target group actually, if you really ask me.
Millennials are the ones who.
Ha. But also, you know, I must mention our little experience. You know, we do a lot of high-end homes, and lighting controls is always a matter of you know dispute connection. You know, while the clients, you know, while the clients are gung ho about lighting controls, but we also know the usage pattern. In a year or two, they almost misusing it because you know there's so many things to look at. Like I don't know, I think Harshita was talking about the hotel room. You know, by the time you get accustomed to a hotel room management system, the time to go. You know, you are like down with 3 or 4 days, like, Arey, chalo, khatam ho gaya. You know, the experience ends. At home, you know, even after, I think we've seen, even after a year, you know, lighting controls have become a redundancy or else a liability. And then when it's not get used, it definitely becomes faulty or there's nobody maintaining it. And more often than not, in large home like these, you always have staff to manage this. It's not the owners. It'll be probably the you know the home staff which gets to switch on, switch off, and all of that. You know you're not really used to. So this has been our experience. However, one, we are all for controls. I mean, I'm talking on behalf of Lucent here. But we want more tactility and simplicity. We're not looking at a lot of you know over automation or too many options. You know, too many options is also then you have left with actually no option. You know, should have like very simple things to do. And I mean, you know, end of the day, lighting controls is all about either comfort or a show. You know, if I may really put it, you know, you like, yeah, you can have multiple modes and whatnot. At least at homes. I don't want to talk about the other spaces. They have different hotels.
The last take on this, not more than 10 seconds. I think sustainability will come to its best form when every home in India is not just a high-end home with automation. I think your and my home, the day we adopt automation, at my home, we are a small home, our lights switch on after the sunlight because it takes the weather data, the light switches on, the light switches off at 11 p.m. in the night. So we know how it goes about. The staircase lights are there on geofencing. So we arrive home, the staircase lights switch on, we go into the room, the switch is off, and that's sustainability.
सुंदर पिचाई का घर लग रहा है, so ऐसा ही कुछ
नहीं,
है.
नहीं, ऐसा
Tony Stark in making.
So actually,
Tony Stark.
we are not using technology. And if we start using technology in our homes, I'm telling you, we are then contributing sustainability. Why should my staircase light, which is used by the family, just switch on at 5 o'clock in the evening on any given day? When the car arrives, you have a geofencing system. The light switches on. It's as simple as that. So
Wonderful, right? We need clients like you actually then. Right, sorry, I cut you short. You,
No. So I was talking about flexibility. As a
Scale it.
designer, I will just not talk about light as an artificial feature, but you know when we use luvers as a sun cutting element, where you want kind of less heat and less sunlight coming in your space, and luvers is the most flexible and compatible thing that a designer can give the client. in the daytime. But when, it directs to the automation part because um, as an architectural sense, lights in the night as automation is triggered, but in the daytime also how we can play with light with architectural elements is also a part of this topic where we are discussing.
Very
So,
nice. So natural lighting, and how does, interestingly, we were talking about tunability couple of presentations back. Daylight is the most tunable thing one can get actually. It's very interesting, and also it not only changes color, intensity and direction. So it's got all three. The drama happens in which is where I think architecture, treatment, orientation, how do you really fit with. So sustainability is a very big word. I think it's abused very badly though. But having said so, it's a total, it's a mindset. I think, when we inculcate natural lighting in architecture, we use natural lighting as much as possible for indoor spaces. Then we have the geofencing to help us, get our car in, for example, and,
also, if lighting designers and architecture designers, I saw in one of the presentation where there's a hanging glass chandelier, and when the sunset, the light comes onto the piece, it shines in a very different way. And
Absolutely.
when the luminosity, when it lights up, it gives a different feeling. So, an architect and the lighting designer comes in place to give a very different vibe, and all homes can be high-end then.
yeah. And with Vijay Bhai's help too. I mean, why do we miss the OE?
We have a role of supplying all this, without which it's not possible. So we try to make their vision realized.
You're the source.
And of course,
You're the source of light.
Right. Not only this the supplier, but also the way we install it. I think that's also a very important aspect. We may envisage a lot of things, but how it gets installed, how it gets commissioned, the technicalities. I think it's the precision. One may have envisaged it in a certain fashion, certain. There are obvious surprises which sites come up through, but I think installation partners are also very important, active, support to the whole system, and any fault that is happening at the installation side spoils the rest of it. Actually, one may design a lot of great stuff, one error, and it's the whole set of us get to blame actually. So, but I think it's all about collaboration. Nothing. We may think we are heroes are our own lives, but actually it's a collaborative affair. Any building that you see, any interior that you see, any space that we created, any urban space, you name it, it's a collaboration of a group of talented designers, engineers, construction people, installers, and suppliers indeed. So and lighting is no different. I think it's a very important. I mean, while we are celebrating lighting in this pavilion, it is indeed the heart and soul of a lot of architectural experiences. But the people behind the scene, the BTS, I don't know this is what my kids tell me now, the BTS, the behind the scene people, the collaboration of which is actually an imperative part of the whole experience. So, yeah, but anything you'd like to have? I mean, we like to conclude now. I think we are boring the audience.
No, I agree. The collaboration is here, and we should keep it strong.
I just want to say that
In the next panel discussion, I'll tell iDAC colleagues to switch off these lights because they don't see us, we don't see them.
Absolutely.
I think we just
we
stop
should design darkness instead, actually. Right. So thanks
Thank you so
much.
much.
Any questions? Sorry, I forgot my role as a moderator, participating equally. But I would really appreciate if there are any questions to the lot here. Yeah, we have some really great experiences on the stage. So, yeah. Questions from the audience, please.
It's so nice when nobody wants to ask questions.
Best. Okay, how many of us enjoyed the conversation? Let's put it. Okay, so we have. Thank you. Right.
Sorry, I'm here. So, more than a question, I think I would like to add up to I think it's an important area of whether as a question, your topic, it says whether it's a successful project or a failure of any projects, whatever may be the space, maybe it's a small villa to starting from a large project. As designers, I think the biggest impact that we get out of is on bringing the stakeholders together, which is, I think today you guys are there. And I think every project comes from not just the client or the architect or the supplier. Sometimes when we do some projects, it's the actual end users who's going to be maintaining the project. I think,
Absolutely.
for instance, if it's a hotel, I would always try to bring in the maintenance guy into the picture, because we carry out so much story in the beginning, hand it over to them, and then give them to the story. I think that's one area that generally it's kind of missed out, because from the design team to the operation team, it's a huge gap that happens, because we designed it so much and you finally give it to somebody who hasn't got the thought process. I think that's one more stakeholders that we always need to be also brought in from the day one, I think, somehow or other.
Very good point. Thanks so much.
Yeah, there are a couple of times, we as designers think, whoa, that spot will be so amazing, they'll enjoy it. But when the client is going to be using that, they'll be like, oh, this is too much harsh light. I'm not actually liking that space. So, that interaction after the design is being executed is also like a back and forth. The design never ends. And so you learn, keep on learning, and failure, success, I think it's a part of discussion that we'll
I
keep
had
on
actually
having.
to ask you about your profession. I think you're a computational designer in your profession. So, I mean, I think today with all of us being in the picture, I think there's a lot of, storytelling happens through the visual medium in terms of the computational designs. I think what we are trying to, need to bring it in, and I like the Laurie Baker's way of doing a project, is he kind of gets the people involved into the project from day one, touch, feel the space. I think today as designers, I think we also need to bring it in. Lighting design is one area we kind of get into more technicality. We always been looked at like lux, lumens, output, but I always believe eyes don't see numbers. I think for us, it's more about bringing in that experience from day one to the client so that it's more interactive, so that the space gets life even after we leave. I mean, that's one point I think I would look at it,
So,
I think
so
especially
the
for your
fourth dimension
profession.
of time comes into being, which is, the fourth dimension of time is an important thing. The way we may have left the project, but the client and the staff and whatever, they need to maintain it. So it's important, right?
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
much. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.